Less than 10% of IELTS candidates get full marks in the listening test. Will you be one of them? I have guided thousands of students worldwide to reach Band 7 and above, and I have studied exactly what listening strategies work. If you're aiming for a Band 8 or 9 in IELTS listening this year, this is exactly the test you need to practice with. Let's go. Section 1, Questions 1 to 10. You will hear a woman calling a local leisure center to inquire about joining a fitness class. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 10. Pause for 30 seconds, listen carefully, and answer questions 1 to 10.
Good morning, Riverside Leisure Center. How can I help you today?
Hi there. I'm interested in joining one of your fitness classes, specifically the Pilates sessions.
Of course, we run Pilates classes several times a week. Did you have a particular day in mind?
I'd prefer something midweek. Maybe on Wednesday if that's available.
Yes, there's a class every Wednesday evening. It starts at 6:30 p.m. and runs for about an hour.
Perfect. Who's the instructor?
That would be Emma Collins. She's one of our senior trainers with over 10 years of experience.
Oh, that sounds great. And what's the cost per class?
It's £12 per session. Or you can take out a 3-month membership that gives you unlimited access.
Okay, I might do that. So it's a 3-month membership option?
That's right. May I take a contact number, please?
Sure, it's 07932 847 610.
And your email address?
It's amelia.jordan@mail.com.
Great. How would you like to pay? By cash, card, or bank transfer?
Card payment, please.
Lovely. One last thing. Are you aware that we offer a 10% discount for students?
Oh, that's good to know. I'm not a student myself, but my daughter is. Maybe she could join too.
She's welcome to. Finally, do you have any special requests?
Yes. Could you make sure there's a yoga mat available? I don't have one of my own.
Not a problem. We'll provide one. That's everything. We'll see you on Wednesday at 6:30.
Thanks very much. See you then.
End of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. After listening to all the 4 IELTS listening sections, download a free PDF with all the answers in the video description section below. Now turn to section 2, questions 11 to 20. You will hear a tour guide talking to a group of visitors about a historic site in Australia called Old Mill Village. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 20.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Old Mill Village. My name's Sarah, and I'll be your guide for the next 40 minutes. Before we start walking, let me tell you a bit about this site and what you can see here today. The Old Mill was built in 1843, making it one of the oldest industrial buildings in this part of the country. It was originally constructed to supply flour to the local settlement. At the time, the nearest town was nearly a day's journey by horse, so the mill played a crucial role in keeping the early settlers fed. Now, many people assume that the mill was powered by wind, but that's not quite right. It was actually driven by water, using the stream that still runs beside us today. You can see the large wooden water wheel on the left-hand side as we begin the tour. The mill continued operating for several decades, but in the 1880s, demand for locally milled flour declined and the building was eventually abandoned. Fortunately, it wasn't destroyed. In fact, much of the original structure remains intact. The site was later restored by the local historical society, who continue to look after it today. Alright, let's take a look at the map in front of you. We're currently standing at the main entrance, marked by the large wooden gates at the bottom of the map. To your left, that's H. You'll see the cafe, which serves coffee, sandwiches, and traditional damper bread baked on site. Next to the cafe, just beyond the wooden fence, is the ticket office, labelled F on the map. That's also where you can buy guidebooks and souvenirs. If you're visiting with children, they'll love the play area, which is on the opposite side of the path near the grain storage shed. That's marked D. The public toilets are located close to the car park, which you'll find just inside the main gates, labelled G. For those who want more information about the site's history, the information centre is right beside the museum hall, labelled E. Volunteers are usually there to answer questions. Finally, if you've brought your own lunch, you can enjoy it in the picnic area, which is next to the riverbank, at the top left corner of the map. That's A. Alright, let's begin the tour at the water wheel, which you'll find straight ahead.
You now have half a minute to check your answers. Section 3, questions 21 to 30. You will hear 2 university students, Liam and Sophia, discussing their research project with their tutor, Professor Chen. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 30. Pause for 30 seconds. Now listen carefully and answer. Questions 21 to 30.
So, Liam and Sophia, I've had a quick look at your draft report. You've made solid progress since our last meeting. Let's start with your topic. Can you summarize what you're focusing on?
Sure. Our project looks at how stress influences academic performance among undergraduate students. We collected data through an online questionnaire and some follow-up interviews.
That's a relevant topic, especially these days. Now, one issue I noticed with your initial survey was the sample size. You only had about 30 responses, correct?
Yes, that's right. We struggled to get more participants within the time limit.
Understandable, but you'll need to mention that as a limitation. Otherwise, reviewers might assume your results are representative of the entire university.
Good point. We also decided to run 10 interviews afterwards to get deeper insights. Some of the survey results were a bit unexpected.
Unexpected in what way?
Well, we found that students with part-time jobs actually performed slightly better academically. That wasn't what we predicted.
Interesting. And what about the interviews? How did those go, Sophia?
Pretty well overall, but a few people didn't show up, so we had to reschedule. That delayed us by almost a week.
Yes, that happens. Now, about your draft, I'd suggest adding more visual data, such as bar charts or pie graphs. They'll make the results easier to interpret.
That's a good idea. I was thinking we should also compare our findings with previous studies, especially the one by Roberts and Tan last year.
Excellent. That'll strengthen your literature review.
I think the introduction could be a bit shorter. It's nearly 2 pages at the moment. Maybe we can move some background information to the discussion section.
That's worth considering. Another thing, make sure you have a clear summary of your main findings at the end. Right now it feels a bit rushed.
Got it. And perhaps we should also include something about ethical considerations, like confidentiality and informed consent.
Absolutely. That's essential in any research involving human participants.
You now have half a minute to check your answers. Pause, 30 seconds. Section 4, questions 31 to 40. You will hear a university lecture on the psychology of decision-making. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Pause for 30 seconds. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to look at one of the most fascinating areas of cognitive psychology, decision-making, and specifically, why we sometimes make choices that seem completely irrational. Traditionally, decision-making was studied within experimental psychology, using highly controlled laboratory tasks. For example, asking participants to choose between sets of numbers or colored cards. However, more recent research has shifted towards studying real-life decisions, such as financial planning, medical choices, and even moral dilemmas. To explain how humans make these decisions, the psychologist Daniel Kahneman proposed a dual system model. According to this model, we have 2 modes of thinking. The first, System 1, is fast and intuitive. It operates automatically, often relying on emotion and gut feeling rather than analysis. It's what helps us make quick judgments. For example, recognizing a friend's face instantly. In contrast, System 2 is slow and deliberate. It requires mental effort. We use it when solving a maths problem or planning a budget. Although it's more accurate, it also takes more time and energy. The problem is that we often depend too heavily on System 1, which can lead to cognitive biases, systematic errors in our thinking. Let's look at a few examples. One of the most common is the anchoring bias, where people rely too much on the first piece of information they receive. For instance, if the first car you see costs $30,000, other prices will seem cheap by comparison, even if they're not. Another is the confirmation bias, where individuals only look for evidence that supports their existing beliefs while ignoring information that contradicts them. The availability bias is also widespread. We judge how likely something is based on how easily we can recall examples. If you've just heard about several car accidents, you may think driving is more dangerous than it really is. Interestingly, even experts are prone to these errors. Experienced doctors, investors, or judges can all make faulty decisions if they rely too much on intuition rather than analysis. So, how can we improve our decision-making? Well, the first step is simply to recognize these biases. Awareness itself can reduce their influence. Secondly, we need to resist the urge to respond immediately. Taking a short pause gives System 2 time to engage. Thirdly, it's helpful to consider alternative perspectives, asking, what might someone else think about this situation? Finally, in professional contexts, organizations can provide bias awareness training, which has been shown to reduce errors in recruitment and performance evaluation. To sum up, understanding how we think doesn't just make us better psychologists, it makes us better decision makers in everyday life.
You now have half a minute to check your answers. Pause for 30 seconds. That is the end of Section 4. You now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Hopefully you found this video helpful. Subscribe to the channel not to miss 2 videos I publish weekly. All the best in your preparation.